Hey everyone, I'm Chris Best. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Substack. But you're listening on my personal Substack. So you're hearing me in my capacity as a mediocre poster, not as a world-beating executive. So thank you for being here. And I'm joined today by two very interesting guests. Richard Hanania is a prominent political commentator, a best-selling Substacker, the president of the Center for the Study of Partisanship and Ideology, and also a notorious Twitter troll, I think it's fair to say. Katherine D, aka Default Friend, is an internet ethnographer, a keen observer of the emotional and aesthetic sides of online culture, also a best-selling Substacker at default.blog. I'll give the pitch up front. They're both very worth subscribing to. If you're tuned into the live, hit the subscribe button. And Richard and Katherine, thank you for coming on my Substack.
Thanks for organizing this.
Yeah, glad to be here, Chris.
Cool. I'm trying to be all organized so that I do a good job for my guests on the live. Okay, so for those who don't know one or the other of you, I thought I might just ask, like, what are you interested in right now? What are you covering? What's a topic that has your attention? Maybe Katherine, if you could start.
Yeah, I do. So I've been working my way through artificial intimacy as or like mediated intimacy as a topic. I started off talking a lot about computer mediated friendships and romance, and I've moved into all the way up to AI companions. But I've been lingering in people who date cartoon characters and they really believe it. Um, and I've written so much on this. And that has been my interest for I guess like the last 2 years.
People who date cartoon characters, not necessarily
Yeah,
AI, but I imagine increasingly AI.
yeah, AI is a component of it. The fictosexual community is really alarmed by AI. There some people like it, some people don't.
That's very interesting. Richard, what's on your mind these days?
So I've been following the Doge stuff. I've been following sort of what's going on with that. I've been following the Trump administration, what it's trying to do, and what's kind of happening in the courts. Um, I have a larger project that I'm working on that I'm going to announce within the next few weeks. A book, actually. I'll say it's a book. So I'm gonna doing that. I haven't kind of announced that officially yet, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
All right, so we've got fictosexual cartoon character love and federal government blitz reform. All right, I think this is going to be good. This is roughly what I hoped for.
It's like a
One of the
real mixed
reasons,
bag.
no, this is perfect. Because one of the reasons I thought that you two might be like fun to have on at the same time, is that I see you as similar in some ways and exactly opposite in others. Like I think you're both people who I think of as sort of upstream of stuff. You're people who a lot of smart people I know subscribe to. I see your ideas kind of like leaking out into the culture and into the world. Katherine, I see things that I think I first read on your Substack being repeated online. Richard, I feel like some of the executive orders we've seen in this new administration are things that you were like cooking up several years ago. You're both keen observers of internet drama. Not coincidentally, you're both early adopters of Substack Live. On the other hand, Katherine, I feel like you tend to approach the things you cover with this sort of like empathetic curiosity. You're kind of trying to figure out why the people are dating the cartoon characters. You're pretty enigmatic in your own politics, and you're kind of like sort of digging in and taking this like what is going on scalpel. Whereas Richard, on the other hand, you have a very public ideological view and transformation. Like you've gone from a hardcore internet racist to rejecting those views, but sort of staking out like a explicitly right-wing anti-woke politics to maybe you're like halfway to being a resistance lib now.
It's
Correct me if I'm
than
wrong on this.
more
It
than
feels to me
half.
like
Yeah,
you're still
You're offended.
shifting.
you can be complex. I mean, people just feel the need to categorize others, kind of break the world down into kind of legible, kind of different people. And that works sometimes, but people don't just want someone with ideas, and even like who's just like sort of thinking for themselves and kind of reacting to things and has their own quirks. They try to force it into a box, and they try to like find some kind of motivation or like larger agenda. And I think like a lot of people appreciate what I do, but then a lot of people are genuinely baffled by it. I mean, I think they're genuinely baffled. I saw something, it was like, how does Richard Hanania get away with it? Like, oh, there was a tweet, how does he get away with it? Like, like, why does he have some, mainstream acceptance? Then I looked at the replies, and there was like dozens and dozens of replies, and every theory was different. It was really funny. It was like, one is like, he's friends with Matt Iglesias, which is like not true. And
I
Matt
don't think that's
Iglesias
true.
vouches for him. And then it's like another one will be like, oh, the liberals like him for this. Another person will be like, conservatives like him for this. It's just like these people, they're, that's why they're on the other website, because their brains just can't handle kind of complexity. So yeah, I mean, my views are my views. I just don't like this categorization thing. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, well, let me ask you this directly. How much of this, of what people see of you, is kind of like your principled views, your transformation, and how much of it is like basically like a cascade of edgelording, where you're constantly sort of reacting to the last thing that the last tribe that you were aligned with. Now you're finding all the reasons to like you're like the perfect troll of whoever you
So
agreed with half an hour ago.
yeah, so this is not edge lording. This is, I think, every person who writes, like, except the effective altruist who will like do the calculation and say, well, standing up for the shrimp is objectively like the most logical thing I can be doing.
You
Most of
love the
us do
shrimp
not do.
too now, though, right?
Yeah, I did give $1,000 to shrimp because part of me sympathizes with that way of understanding the world. And so like a few people will do that. A few people will, my friend Bentham's bulldog says I should be writing about insect farm, and then I said I agree with you with the shrimp, but the insects, my goodness, the ants and the grasshoppers. I don't know if I could tolerate that. Okay, so but they're a unique group of people. But most people have some kind of personal thing, like the academics who focus on wokeness. They focus on that because they're academics. They see it all day. They didn't like do an analysis and say this is objectively the worst thing in the world. It's just they're reacting to the people who are around them and people who are sort of similar to them, but they dislike, right? And a lot of liberals, maybe they grew up around, kind of like Fox News watching parents or whatever, and they're rebelling against that. Everyone has interests that are kind of tied to their personal story, and my interests are also tied to my personal story. I think I am maybe more than other people in like understanding that and just like reacting strongly to something that I used to believe or things that I saw among different groups of people. But I think I'm kind of just an extreme case of what everyone is like, really.
So it's kind of like a, you know, narcissism of small differences. I react to the near group, but you're just more extreme with it.
It's not small differences. I get annoyed when people have large differences that they pretend are small differences for
Mhm.
tribalist reasons. Like I see that all the time. And there's like people like you'll be on the right or you'll be on the left, and you can say, "Well, I have narcissism, small differences with the right." But if the right is half the country, like there's going to be a lot of people whose views you just find disgusting that are on the right, that are disgusting and more disgusting or more that upset you more than anything you see on the left, right? And so, like most people, I think have a kind of tendency to kind of hedge their bets for whatever, towards whatever their tribe is. And I tend not to have that, right? I tend to just sort of go where I think the truth is and kind of, kind of react strongly to the things I naturally react strongly to based on my ideas, my morality, and my ideas of what I think is true or false. And so, yeah, I think I'm kind of doing what everyone else does, but kind of don't have these kind of breaks or kind of these like kind of peacemaking or agreeableness kind of characteristics that
Right.
kind of smooth social relations and people's place in the world.
Give us like a recent example of this. What crusades are you on right now?
So like I've been arguing with Curtis Yarvin on Twitter, and I think that like he's basically this guy who's like this kind of right wing anti-egalitarian. He believes in heredity. He believes in like
Monarchy.
monarchy. Yes, he doesn't like democracy. He doesn't like egalitarianism. And I'm agree with him on some things, disagree with him on other things. But I've always pointed out this deep contradiction at the heart of his world, which is that right wing populism appeals to like the stupidest, the most hopeless people in society. And so that poses like a problem for your worldview if you think like elites matter and you think intelligence matters, and then like your ideas do not appeal to elites or people who are intelligent at all, right? Like something has kind of gone wrong here. And I think this is the kind of like contradiction or tension in people's worldview that they just prefer to ignore.
What would you do if, let's just say on Twitter, like an unambiguously well-liked person just totally agreed with you?
And
How would you react?
who said unambiguously well? Like that's hard to imagine
Does
because
such an animal exist?
yeah, who's he
Or
say?
like
This isn't
like a just a
1970.
well like just a well-liked right winger, or like a really well-liked chud, or even like leftist. They're like, you know what, he's okay. What if this hypothetical guy like quote tweeted you and was like, Richard is absolutely correct. Here's my view. They add their own spin on it. Maybe it's something you haven't mentioned. Would you thank them? Would you like how would you react to that?
No, why would I? Why would I not? I mean, if someone agrees with, well, what do you think? I don't understand. Yeah, great if someone agrees with me.
Because you strike me as someone who doesn't like to be agreed with.
No, that's not true. Maybe because I rarely agree with people, but when I do agree with people, I'm happy to point it out. I mean, go to my Twitter feed. Maybe the negative stuff goes more viral, but
No,
there's all the
but I
time
feel
I'm
like
like,
when
this
you
is a
do agree, no, I feel like when you do agree with people, it's people who have like some kind of baggage, like Brianna Wu or Ayla, or just like
oh,
so.
that's just fun. It's just fun to agree with and praise Ayala and Brianna. That's part of it. Yeah.
Okay, okay, just
But I mean, I
just a
like
little bit of a
Tracy
troll.
Woodgrains. I think Trace is brilliant. I've been retweeting him lately. My friend Rexandra Tesla, I think is gonna be huge, who's making a name for herself on Substack and elsewhere. Yeah, I praise people all the time. It's probably the algorithm. I mean, it's probably the algorithm. You probably see the negative stuff and that, or the stuff that generates discussion. Agreement and like praise for others really usually doesn't go far.
I will say I have seen you praise Trace and Rux, but the like Brianna Wu, Ayla, etc. is what I remembered.
Yeah, the Ayla thing is funny, and the Brianna Wu thing is funny because, like, my reaction to them is like other people's reaction to them. Like, Ayla, I really like. Like, why would you be like? People get mad at her. She doesn't shower. Thousand idiots like you don't shower. You're
Yeah.
like, who cares? I was with her the other day. She doesn't smell. She doesn't smell at all. There wasn't flakes coming out of her hair. People talk about the things that she does. I mean, okay, but like it's like who cares if she doesn't shower? Like that's just like why are people upset about this? And so it's so superficial, stupid. And you know what? She's like smart and like an honest person and gathers this data, like fetishes and stuff. Not like things that I'm deeply interested in, but like whatever, it's data. She makes it available. The gangbang stuff is not my cup of tea, but like who cares?
That's
Like
gonna get
why are people
clipped.
hate her? And I posted that picture the other day. I got like 1.1 million views of just me like what a classy woman or something like that, right? And like I love that. I love like everyone, like there's this mob like on one side, and I kind of want to be on the other side of that.
You do take a delight in provoking the mob, and
Yeah.
especially the mob from your own like putative tribe.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, I think I see so much of them, especially since Musk bought Twitter, and I saw some data the other day. Like it just dominates. I don't think it's just me. I think that these people are the ones. You go to the For You tab, and I have accounts, not burner accounts, but just accounts I don't use that often, and sometimes I get like the CSPI account, and I have a bot account, and you get like notifications from Twitter. Like Twitter is just sending these notifications to you, and they're like these stupid fake news accounts, these right-wing conspiracy theorists. And like that's what Twitter is pushing now. Like if you just sign up randomly, it's going to give you fake news, like
Yeah,
conspiracy
white
theorists, like
videos.
the worst stuff out there. So it's impossible to miss. I mean, maybe it's just because of me and people who are reading me, but it's just like it's kind of what Twitter is now, and I'm just having and it's like has a very kind of direct influence. Like remember with the left, with wokeness, when it kind of popped on the scene in the early 2010s, all the policymakers started talking like that, like them. And now you see like on the right, they are kind of influenced by these discourse. I think the Haitians eating cats and dogs thing during the presidential election just started some internet nonsense. I mean, they are kind of, I hear young Republican staffers and so forth. They're into this stuff. They're just on Twitter all the time. So the fact that these people annoy me, that they're there and they're having an influence, just makes me, constantly reacting to them.
That touches on my grand theory of Twitter. But before I get rabbit holed on
What's your
that,
grand?
I want to
That's
ask, I want to ask, I want to ask. We'll get to that. But I wanted to
okay,
ask
okay.
Catherine, like, how do you? Okay, maybe put it this way: do you agree with me that in some ways your approach to being like an online thinker is kind of the exact opposite of the thing Richard just outlined, or am I crazy for thinking that? Or
No, I
how are
think
you the same or different?
I don't know how we're the well, I think like I'm also like attracted to talking to people who cause problems. Right? Like, were I in Richard's shoes, I would have also taken the Ayla pick. Um, I like Ayla too, and she's been very helpful for the kind of work I do,
Yeah.
and very helpful in connecting me with people who have weird internet native fetishes. But yeah, if there was a selfie opportunity, I definitely would have taken it. Opposite, I mean, I think maybe I'm more. I don't really disagree with people very often. I'm very high agreeableness, and that makes people think I don't have a perspective. So that I guess we're the opposite in that way.
How can you have a perspective but never disagree with anyone? That seems.
I'm just like conflict averse. I've been trying to get better at it, right? Like I
Yeah.
would have so I tweeted about you today and I got people were like angry, but they didn't really know why they were angry. They're just kind of I just kind of listed a bunch of names that upset people. I stand by my point, but I think I believe in what I was saying. But like I would have deleted that, and I'm trying to get better at just people are gonna get mad, and I'm just gonna stick with it.
They still get to you. Do you ever delete stuff or like let
Oh
Twitter
my god,
really bother
yeah.
you?
There's actually someone who, like, manually archives all of my tweets because I tend to delete them, but it doesn't I don't have a physiological reaction to it anymore.
Mm.
My heart used to race, and I used to be really scared and like, "Oh, no, I gotta apologize to this person," but I'm getting over it.
Do you ever feel that way, Richard? Does your heart ever race when people get mad at you?
No, I mean I get death threats like a lot, like almost on a weekly basis, and it doesn't bother me. Like I just no, it's like when the first time it happened, I wrote an article for Colette. I was not a public person yet. I think it was 2018, 2019, and I was dunked on and by liberal Twitter. Like Twitter was going crazy, and I was kind of I had a reaction to it, but I think probably less than 95% of people would. And it's something that you just kind of get used to. Like now people will say, "Oh my God, man, what's going on Twitter?" Like, and I'll just I won't even notice. Like I'll have multiple, I'll have multiple viral tweets that people are mad at once. And I don't even know about like one or two of them, right? I only know about the third one. Like one of them caught my attention. And it's kind of, I don't know. It's a kind of I think I kind of developed it like over my life. Like I was kind of, an outcast when I was younger. And like so I had to kind of study human relationships from like a theoretical perspective and like take this like scientific outlook. But that's created this perspective where I just don't care. Like it created this kind of detachment. And I see it as like, and I mean, we're not like, I see it as a kind of a challenge, right? If anything ever upsets me, it's like, there's people who out there who are fighting wars. There's people who are, climbing over dead bodies on the battlefields of Eastern Ukraine. And it's like, I give my opinion on the internet and people yell at me. Like I know this human nature is not to be able to deal with that well, but like I just feel like at a fundamental level, like I should be able, if I want to, I should be able to deal with that. And I think like we all should. And so like, I don't know, if you really set your mind to it, it doesn't matter.
Does something feel wrong if someone's not mad at you on Twitter?
Does something feel wrong if someone's not mad? Yes, I think
Something
so.
besides
Yeah, I think so. I think it is a proxy for how, like, if you're not saying things, like, if you have a large audience and nobody is getting mad at you, you must not be saying anything that interesting, right? And I have my friend Brian Kaplan actually, and he tells me that, we have like a lot of similar opinions on stuff. He usually doesn't get any of that. And I tell him, well, Brian, I mean, because you write books and blogs, and like very few people ever get upset at me for like a Substack. The people who are getting upset are upset on Twitter, which is just like immediately in front of people's faces, and it's for like lazy people who don't like to think too much. But I don't know. I think if Brian was on Twitter all the time, I think it would be different. And yeah, part of me does enjoy it. Like it is funny. I mean, it is fun to be like to have that. I wouldn't say like I have withdrawal if like people aren't mad at me. But it's been a very long time since a lot of people weren't mad at me. So I don't know. Maybe I'm so addicted to it. I don't know. I don't know what it feels like not to have people be mad at me anymore.
Is that more or less weird than being a fictosexual?
Um, no, I mean, it's about the same. It's just, things that all people experience. I mean, I kind of feel it's been like a few months. Today was the first time I've upset people on Twitter for a long time, or in a long time, and it was feeling kind of weird that people weren't mad at me. I was like, "What?" People must have stopped paying attention to me. let me let me rock the boat a little, just a gentle rock, not a full rock, but a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like I do believe like these things are worth actually arguing about. Like I think these ideas matter. Like I've seen ideas like go from the fringes to kind of the mainstream, and I've seen some good ideas kind of rise up. And sometimes you'll hear people say, like, oh, it's just Twitter, like, who cares? And it's like, well, if the discourse on Twitter doesn't matter or Substack or wherever we have these discussions, like, then what does matter? Because that discourse ends up driving policy and the kind of, society we live in. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it's like there's like a kind of, I take a kind of view where it's like it doesn't matter like me personally, but like this whole thing that we're doing, it actually does matter. And I think that like sometimes
Well,
people are
both
very part
matter.
of the discourse. And what's that?
Both of them, both things matter, right? Like it does change the way people perceive you, which is why I'm scared of it. But also it makes, you're right. Like a tweet did make it onto a debate stage this election. And that the person whose tweet inspired that told me to touch grass today. And I was like, well, you don't touch grass and you're changing the world, you know?
Do you guys want to hear my grand theory of Twitter?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right, it's not original to me, but I'm sort of putting together this pastiche. But basically, okay, first of all, I like Twitter is kind of real life. Like, or at least it's leaking into real life. There's these things matter. The thing you're both saying, it's like this is this what at least it's a wet lab of ideas that spring out otherwise. And at most it's like a place where it has been a place where a lot of prominent people are like leading a substantial fraction of their lives. Like they're just spending time there. And the real power of it is not that it like convinces you of things, but it gives you a false sense of common knowledge, like a false sense of like what everybody thinks. And so if you own and control Twitter, you get this kind of like ring of power where you get to like set the vibe. You get to like decide what ideas seem hegemonic. And over the short run, that feels like an extremely powerful stick to beat your enemies with because you can make your team feel like it's winning and you can kind of like create this like false consensus that this is sort of like the thing that everybody believes. But then over the medium term, and I'm maybe borrowing this from like an Iglesias idea, that sort of stabs you in the back because that effect is like more powerful on your own team. Basically, like your own side drinks the Kool-Aid more, and you can sort of have your whole movement like go off the rails and deeper into these like rabbit holes when there's no check. And then that's sort of like in this telling that kind of happened with the original blue check Twitter. It created this like part of the reason that stuff felt so overwhelming was because it like felt like that was just the rules of the game on Twitter. But then that kind of like drove those people crazy. And the same thing's happening with the right now with the things you're talking about. What do you make of it?
I think I agree, right? And I actually like I built my small platform sharing a very similar idea. I think it's that journalists and other powerful people are on Twitter. That's what makes it powerful.
Yeah.
That people, it's where people take ideas to spread it. If rich people and the press ignored Twitter, it would be useless.
Yeah, I mean, you do see, like, I remember I listened to Sam Harris saying, he's got a Twitter, he had to quit Twitter. Andrew Sullivan, has talked about leaving Twitter, not at any length, but it kind of in passing. And, like people who are influential as Sam Harris and Andrew Sullivan, they don't talk that way about Facebook or TikTok, or, any of these, like the addiction, like it is particularly suited for basically hooking people who are disproportionately influential in politics, right? And we keep saying Twitter is not real life. I've written because it's kind of, we suspect that it actually is, because the vibe shift people talking about. I mean, look, liberals have Twitter. 10 years we go through wokeness. 2022 Musk buys Twitter. I remember within like 3 months of Musk buying Twitter, like there was these articles in like Semaphore and such being like, oh, conservative boycotts are finally working. My entire life, conservative boycotts of corporations. They were obsessed about, upset about LGBT or race stuff that they've been doing. They never worked. Suddenly, within 2 months of conservatives taking over Twitter, they suddenly worked. And so we've seen this kind of conservative shift in the culture since then. And it's kind of like a simple theory that just kind of fits the facts. And Chris, you said, well, it creates this kind of false sense of reality. But like any good advertiser knows, or anybody who's kind of good at manipulating public opinion, is like if you make everyone think that something is
Yeah.
true, by common knowledge, that becomes true. So if you believe that everyone is woke, or if you believe
Yeah.
everyone is like upset about immigration, like that becomes a reality. Everyone's assumptions become baked into that. And so yeah, I mean, I've come to really, it's a very, to say that I have a love hate relationship with the site, I mean, would be really understating it. I mean, I'm on it all day. I also deeply detest it and like what it's done to the culture. I mean, I don't think leaving would do any good. It's not like me leaving would like collapse Twitter or anything. It just would make it, leave it to the
Do,
stupid people and not
do you
have
think it's
uh,
driving the right more crazy now that the right is ascendant on Twitter?
yeah, I mean, it's like Hitler has like seven-figure followers. I mean, these open Nazi accounts are huge, and it's like it's not even further to the right. It's making them just dumb and not connected to reality. I mean, I think that one thing I've changed my mind on, and people are like, why do you change your mind on? Because you change your mind sometimes. It's like, yeah, when like the facts change, right? I was very against Twitter censorship, back in 2019, 2020, 2021. I thought it was terrible. I was victimized by it. They wouldn't give me a blue check, even though I was much more important than a lot of the people they gave blue checks to. I would get suspended for really stupid reasons. Um, but then, like, okay, we've run the experiment. Where you don't fact check anything, where you don't kick people off for just spreading fake news 24 hours a day. And we have to take seriously what that experiment has shown. That experiment has shown that in a free market of ideas, it will be dominated by right wing slop, right? That's like what we know, and like it's going to be fake news. It's going to be just these narratives made up of whole cloth, right? The Haitians eating pets became a presidential talking point, had no connection to reality at all. I wonder what would have happened if the election went the other way. I mean, there's no way the right would have accepted it. It would have been all day, 24/7, boosted by Elon himself. No matter how clean the election was, it would have been the election was stolen. So like we have to consider that. Like we have to look back and say we tried this absolutist free speech thing. We still believe in the First Amendment, but this idea that like nobody should curate anything, I mean, obviously that hasn't worked out well.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that, Catherine?
Um, I kind of want to disagree. Um, but I mean, I sort of disagree, right? Like, I don't think Twitter necessarily won the election, but obviously, um, without any kind of censorship, things devolved to the lowest common denominator. Like, I love the argument that and a right wing account that no longer exists had like a viral tweet in like 2018 or something that said this, that like censorship is good on at least on like the dissident or alt right, because it forces them to be more creative, and it also gatekeeps it away from people who are really stupid. And I think there's something to that theory, which is kind of adjacent. what Richard is saying.
Oh, it's almost like another way to say that is censoring, lightly censoring one side might help them by helping marginalize their crazies within their own
Yeah.
coalition.
And it elevates the speech a little bit. And I think there's something interesting about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I think when conservatism was just like you had to write a book or you had to have a newspaper or a journal or something, it was definitely um, higher quality. I don't know though. I would maybe disagree with kind of the premise that um, it's kind of always bad for your side. Maybe electorally, like maybe you lose election in the immediate term, but you know the wokes. I mean, they achieved some victories. I mean, they achieved some kind of hegemony over the left. The people on the right are achieving the kind of party that they want. You know, whatever that is. I mean, it does seem like they're getting what they want. Maybe there's an electoral backlash. Maybe that's more likely than not. But yeah, sometimes just like having the megaphone, having the most important social media site is just good for your own side.
Well, it
Yeah, of
falls to me to
course.
make the pro free speech case, which is the problem is not that they're not censoring. The problem is that you don't actually have a marketplace, a real marketplace of ideas. You have kind of like an attention marketplace. You kind of have the like the hothouse. What is the thing that gets the most engagement, the most rage? Like you're sort of like you're creating an incentive landscape that really, really, really pulls in one direction. Previously, that was held. You had to like keep that in check with whatever your rules are. You take away the rules, yeah, that's pulling in that same direction. But at least a potential solution to that is rather than saying, all right, bring back the censorship and do a better job of it, you could say, maybe we actually need to change the underlying incentive structure. Maybe the way to win should not be, making the tweet that tickles Richard's lizard brain because people are mad at him again. Maybe there should be some other like way to win.
I mean, here's something interesting that are like the most prominent Substack accounts and the ones that I feel like have real influence aren't flop on either side. I mean, and you guys don't censor.
Well,
So
that's
there's
I mean, that's the difference because this is a lot. This is long form content. I mean, this is the classic medium is the message. I think Twitter is uniquely suited for dunking and for memes and kind of a superficial. You know, it's like TV is like talk TV is like different from articles. So I mean, like when I go to my comments on Substack, I mean, they're all people who write in complete sentences. Usually, they actually read the article. They're not just like people who seem like they're just spouting off. You go to Twitter, it's completely different, right? So it's a kind of it is a kind of the different kinds of means of communication draw different kinds of audiences, and that's what I think a part of it is. It's not Twitter's just it's just free. I think it's you're right, Chris. You can't separate every form of communication exists in like some form, right? Whether it's audiovisual, whether it's writing, whether it has a character limit, whether it's a newsletter, and yeah, that obviously matters. That's kind of it's kind of determinative. Like, could Twitter be like this elevated place where everyone has like these smart discussions? Before Elon Musk, there was like the wokes were a problem, but like academics were much more likely to have like serious I just
You
like
could
would
you could
ask
link
it.
to an article and people might click on it.
Yeah, and like and smart people in like academia and journalism were much more on the site, and you could find them. They weren't drowned, and like the old blue check mark system, which like I'm mad they didn't give me a blue check mark, but like it was some kind of quality control. Now the people that go to the top are just like these, Elon and Trump cultists, right? They're the ones who are most eager to pay $8 a month. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, kind of the only way Twitter, I think, could be smart is if you have a kind of heavy hand of censorship. Yeah, if you have what Twitter is plus no censorship, and we shouldn't assume that like Elon's not putting his thumb on the scale. I mean, I think he probably clearly is, but I wouldn't doubt that like if he wasn't putting his thumb on the scale, like right wing, like fake news slop would still be dominating, just not to the same extent.
Well, maybe that's a good segue. I wanted to ask you. You're both successful about Substack Live. You're both successful on Substack, and you've both been early adopters of this crazy live thing we've been building, this thing we're doing now. I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what do you like about it? And then, do you have any sort of high level ideas of where it should go next? I know there's lots of like bugs and feature requests. We covered some of that in the preview room. But like, yeah, what do you like about it, and where do you wish it would go?
I like holding my phone and talking to people, looking into the phone. And although today, I mean, this happened on another level. My arms are shaking, which is kind of a weird sensation. I need to get a stand. Um, it should be easier to find lives that are happening. There should be like a list of lives you can pop in and out of, like they have with Spaces or like on Twitch even.
Oh, like a total, just everything, like a Substack
Yeah,
TV where you can just flip through the channels.
yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, Chris, we've talked about this a lot. I think that the young people, the kids these days, they're really into streaming, and what they often love is like you just like scrolling the web or like reacting to stuff, right? Some you need to do kind of a screen share. I know there's a way to do screen share, but it's not the same. It's like you have to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
like a different place, and the screen share takes you away. The way you do it takes you away from the live chat. And so, like, just being able to stream from your desktop directly through Substack, and then putting in the screen share, I think it would be really cool. I mean, I think I would spend a lot of time here.
You just
But
go on Twitter like you do anyway, but also stream
I've
it
done
and
that a
yell at
few
the
times.
camera.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. I would just like sit there and I'll do a screen share, and I'll sit there reacting to tweets, and like people love that. People
Cat
think
turn
that's like
again.
very
Here I
yes,
go.
yes. And sometimes I'll compose tweets. Yeah, people will enjoy that. And so yeah, like you've got to like streaming is like streaming is huge. I like streaming as a way. I don't want to be a streamer. Like, just being a streamer is like kind of, I think, beneath what I actually do. But streaming as a way to get people sometimes to convert them from the other site, but just, if through the Substack finding features, that's cool too. And then kind of bring them into the Substack and like get them interested in the ideas. So yeah, it's a cool. I mean, it's a cool feature. I know this one where you could do three people. I think this is only added like a month or two ago. So yeah, I mean, I think the screen share is the big thing.
Very cool. Should we all get streaming hats?
Yeah. I'm excited. My streaming puppet is going to come soon.
You got to tell
So
us about the streaming
You got a
puppet.
puppet? Show us.
it's in Spain. It's on its way. Um,
No, that's
I
too much premeditation. It's got to be. You
I
went online and found a streaming puppet.
it's I mean it's it's I want to get a it's a marionette and I wanted a high quality. I can't just get any old marionette. I
Okay.
fell in love with this particular marionette. It looks like a K-pop like guy.
Now, when you say you
It's
fell in
actually
love with it,
Oh,
are we
you're
speaking in metaphor?
I don't know. I just felt like very like just drawn to this puppet. And I spent a lot of money on it and I'm excited and I feel like my content is going to change, become more whimsical. I want like a set, that I'm in my home library right now and I want to dress it up and make it a little bit more whimsy and I'll have the puppet and I'll do puppet shows.
This is going to be amazing. Um, well, thank you. This has been really fun for me. Thank you for indulging me and coming on the live. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or that we should have hit but haven't?
Just bring it to desktop. That's bring streaming to desktop.
All right. All
Yeah,
right.
and I mean, Chris, I mean, thank you guys. I think you guys single-handedly brought blogging back. I mean, it had like a, kind of a moment in the early days of the internet, like 2008 to the 2010s, that was like kind of the golden age of blogging. And then it died for a while. And then it became like social media. Um, and maybe something was going to pop up again, and like Twitter, the dominance of Twitter and streaming and all this stuff is still pretty bad. But I shudder to think like if there wasn't Substack, because you made it so easy. I didn't set out to start a Substack. I was still an academic when I started, and it was just because it was so easy. It was so minimalist. I could just go there, and people could just give you money, and you could just send things out. And so that makes a difference. And I think it kind of nudged people into going off on their own. And so it's like, it's mattered. I shudder to think like if the world was just Twitter and audio visual and like cable news. So yeah, I'm happy with the site. I mean, I'm glad it exists, and yeah, I encourage everyone to get on Substack. As you know, I wish the other site would collapse and everyone would be here, and I think that's hopefully the long term goal.
Well, thank you. That means a lot, and that gets to my sort of part of my motivation with the live stuff is the same way that writing on Substack could kind of like lower the barrier. You could be an academic, you could be a person that just has something to say. You could type into the box, and if the thing you had to say was great, you could get rich and famous. Hopefully, you'll be able to
Mhm.
talk into your phone, do your elaborate puppet show, work in kind of whatever, make it easy to work in whatever medium your ideas travel in, and the whole thing can kind of work. Well, it's going well so far. Um,
Cool.
well, thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe to both Richard and Katherine if you're listening here, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.